It's an idea that's taken hold of the brain. It's almost impossible to eradicate. An idea that is fully formed, fully understood.
I was convinced that the only thing I wanted to do, ever, was write novels. The knowledge that you have emerged wiser and stronger from setbacks means that you are, ever after, secure in your ability to survive. You will never truly know yourself, or the strength of your relationships, until both have been tested by adversity. Such knowledge is a true gift, and for all that it is painfully won.
Rock bottom wasn't fun at all. I'm not going to romanticize rock bottom, but it was great. What did I have to lose?
You might never fail on the scale I did, but some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default. As is a tale, so is life. Not how long it is, but how good it is what matters.
Hello everyone. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to the elders past, present and future. My name is Keishi Tilak Ramesh, and it's my absolute honour to welcome you to the Festival of Failures. To be completely honest with you, I wasn't really sure what to think when I got the invitation to speak at this event. On one hand, I was honoured, but on the other, I was kind of embarrassed that I was called upon to talk about failure. However, it was this general discomfort with the term failure in which I knew that I definitely had to speak at this event tonight. I'd like to start off with acknowledging the elephant in the room, which is this taboo notion that we have around the topic of failure, that it's something that we should be ashamed of and something that we shouldn't really share with other people. But before I get into that, I've been instructed that I have to introduce myself. As I said, my name is Keishi Tilak Ramesh. I'm 20 years old. I'm a third-year law student at La Trobe University. I currently hold 3 jobs. I'm the recipient of 4 scholarships. I've recently been named in the top 100 future leaders of Australia. I'm currently in Canada on a legal internship scholarship. And I've also been lucky enough to be named as the 2017 Young Citizen of the Year. Okay, now that that's out of the way, I feel like I should try that again, but be a little bit more truthful this time. My name is Keishi Tilak Ramesh. Yes, it's true that I just turned 20. I'm a third-year law student at La Trobe University because I didn't get into medicine. I currently hold 3 jobs, but I was knocked back by 28 of them and counting. I hold 4 scholarships, and I've also been knocked back by 32 of them, just in the last year alone. And I'm currently talking to you from Canada, as I failed to be there tonight. You see, it paints a very different picture when we bring to light how much failure is behind each success in someone's life. I really think that it's one of the biggest mistakes that we make today. In celebrating people's successes, we often fall into this trap of sweeping past failures under the rug. And no one really acknowledges the fundamental amount of failure that is put behind a single success. I was actually on the phone to a friend of mine talking about how I was invited to speak at tonight's event, when he said to me that I wouldn't know what failing's like because I, quote, succeeded everything, unquote. So firstly, that's inherently untrue. But secondly, I kind of understood where he was coming from. My failures are not something that I really parade around. And when I talk about my successes, it's very rarely that I bring up the amount of attempts that it took for me to get there. But truth be told, I only really noticed my succeeding in things once I realised that failure was not something to be feared. When I was younger, I had a crippling fear of failure. And looking back now, I can easily say that that was one of my biggest failures within itself. You see, by being afraid to fail, I was afraid to try, which meant that I took myself out of the running before the race even started. And sure, I wasn't hit with this crippling rejection, which I feared so much, but I also gave myself literally 0 chance of succeeding. It wasn't until I asked one of my mentors about his copious amount of scholarships in which that I found the answer. You see, this guy seemed to have it all. He was smart, he was successful, and he even held about 10 scholarships concurrently. So naturally, I had to find out how he did it. What was his secret formula to success? I recall saying something along the lines of, how the hell have you managed to uphold what you have and get 10 scholarships? To which he smugly looked at me and smiled and replied, behind those 10 scholarships are 42 scholarships which I did not get. And that was when I learnt one of the most important lessons that I've learnt in my life so far. Every success stems from failure, and every failure is an opportunity for success. Further from this, the sooner that you realise that failure isn't something to be afraid of, the more likely that you are to succeed, because suddenly you won't be afraid to try. With this in mind, I sincerely hope that you enjoy the rest of the event, and you really take a moment to soak in the valuable lessons that the rest of the speakers have to say to you. And remember, every failure is an opportunity for a comeback. Thank you.
My name is Annika Smethurst and I'll be your MC today, so welcome all to the Festival of Failure. Before we begin, I too wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Alumbra Theatre, where we gather here today, means gathering together. It seems fitting that such a magnificent place where we've all come together to share these stories and to laugh and connect would be held here. I'd like to formally welcome the Honourable Marie Edwards, the member for Bendigo West, the Chapman family and staff of Australian Turntable Company, our event partner with the Festival of Failure. Deputy Chair of Be.Bendigo, the host of the Bendigo Inventor Awards, Marika McMahon, committee members of the Bendigo Inventor Awards, Councillor Jennifer Eldon, Anne Bronson and Rod Hanson. I'd also like to formally welcome the major sponsors and partners, the City of Greater Bendigo and councillors, their team, Engineers Australia, the Australian Red Cross and KPMG. This event and this entire program wouldn't be going ahead without your support. Welcome to our educational partners too, the Goldfields Local Learning, Employment Network, La Trobe University, Deakin University and Monash University and their staff and students that are here with us today. Before we kick off the Festival of Failure this afternoon, it's worth reflecting on its origins. It takes a fairly brave soul to captain a series of events that are based on failure. Paul Chapman, chairman of the Bendigo Inventor Awards, embodies that pioneering spirit. When Paul took on the responsibility of chairing the Bendigo Inventor Awards, he wanted to focus the program on inventing products and services that could add value for emergency services and disaster management. So Paul introduced the concept of the Festival of Failure. As a celebrated entrepreneur and founder of Australian Turntable Company, Paul had experienced his share of failures along the way in building a globally respected brand in advanced manufacturing. Paul is very disappointed to miss this event this afternoon. We're recording this message for him. He's in hospital recovering from a knee reconstruction and we hope his operation was a success. He did joke to his surgeon that should he fail or botch the operation, then he'd rope him into speaking next year. Paul, we're sorry you can't be here this afternoon and we thank you for your energy and your passion and commitment in seeing this through. First, I'd like to welcome our first guest for tonight, Dion Williams, who is from the Wurundjeri and Wakaman descent, is from Echuca and actually went to the same primary school as me. He recently came runner-up in the Melbourne Comedy Festival stand-up competition, Deadly Funny, having never attempted stand-up before. His acting career began when he won a role of Marlon in Chris Lilly's series Angry Boys. He then went on to play a reoccurring role in The Time of Our Lives and lead guest in Redfern Now, which was on the ABC. He also had an important role in the Nine Network's Gallipoli series. Dion has also shown a bit of sporting talent with football at local, state and international level, having made the AFL Under-17s Flying Boomerangs tour in South Africa in 2010. He's an accomplished athlete, having represented his school at local, regional and state level. He plays guitar, he sings, he's in a hip-hop dance group and has won so many competitions. So can we all welcome Dion?
All right, let's get ready to watch this failure in action. So, my name's Dion Williams. I'm a very proud Aboriginal man. I'm Raji on my father's side and Welcome on my mother's side. And the thing I get all the time when I tell people that is, really? You don't look it. I can't help when I turn around and say, well, you didn't look like a rude prick, but here we are. Second thing I always get is Greek. All the time. Someone will either ask me if I'm Greek, or someone will either come up and start talking fluent Greek to me, and I'm just stuck there like, what? So I made my best friend teach me some Greek. Oh, he's Greek, by the way. This was good and very bad, because the only thing that stuck was tika nisa zapimu. Now that is a pickup line, my friends. First person he gets me to use it on is his mother. But the joke's on him now, because now he calls me daddy. But even in high school too, they just flat out just didn't believe me when I told them I was Aboriginal. And every day I came to school with my cousins who were very, very dark. But they just flat out didn't believe me. And after 2 to 3 or maybe 4 times in a row of me being in and out of the principal's office, they started thinking, yeah, he might be black. But I was that one kid in high school that was always in trouble. Do you ever hear about that one kid and someone always manages to say, oh, but he's a good kid? Nah, man, I was a little turd. I remember one time I got in so much trouble, I was actually worried about going home. I was terrified. I was terrified to go home. I had actually stolen a box of Snicker bars from the canteen at school. Now, it doesn't sound that bad. It was during reconciliation week. Yeah. I get home before my dad, and I started thinking, oh, this isn't too bad. Maybe I'll get off being very optimistic. Man, was I wrong. He gets through that door and goes, Dion, I want to have a chat to you, mate. And I nearly cried. Because he only ever said that when he was serious. He gets me in the shed, how did you have any yarn with me? The only question he had for me was, why, mate? Why did you do it? And the only answer I had was, I was hungry. Then I got in a lot of, So, after being in trouble in high school all the time and no one believing that I was Aboriginal, I started working in a gym. I started working full-time in an Aboriginal gym, and this was probably my first success, easily. Which was great. It helped me learn a lot. Helped me further my football, helped me further everything, but then again, I had a very serious injury when I was first started working there. I had broken my ankle in 3 places, and I missed out on a chance to pretty much play AFL at the highest level. After that, I thought, screw it, I'll never play football again. It took me 12 weeks to come back. Once I'd finally come back, I started playing very slowly with the kids, being laughed at by my cousins. After months of not being able to fully play football again, I had enough. I gave up. So I kept going with acting. And then acting, I had 12 to 13 auditions in the space of 2 weeks. I didn't hear back from any of them. And doing that over and over and over again, and not just not hearing back from them, but not getting any feedback and nothing like that, thinking you just did everything wrong. It was really hard to take, really hard pill to swallow. Then after another couple of weeks, I started thinking, oh, I can't do it anymore. I've had enough. I was 19. Started thinking I've had enough. And the manager phoned me and said, we've got this audition for you. And it was for the last role that I've done in Gallipoli. And did one audition and same thing. Thought nothing was going to come back from it. Within a week, I had heard that they wanted me to come back in, but 3 months later, because it wasn't shot for another year. So they get me to come back in 3 months later. Then I eventually ended up with the role and had to wait another X amount of months just working away in a gym. Wasting my time, I thought it was. I get this role and I just thought it was awesome. But the most uncomfortable situation that I think I've been in, first of all, I really firmly believe in you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable to get your small successes. Your small successes become the bigger ones. And the biggest uncomfortable thing that I did was recently moving to Melbourne by myself. I moved into my auntie's house and I was on the couch for 6 months, I think. And I just had to pretty much swallow the pill and just say, look, this is my reality for the moment, this is what I have to do to be able to support myself eventually. And I was working for a construction company that hired out labourers. I just wasn't getting enough work. They had too many people on the books. I just wasn't getting enough work. And then this job came up at the Melbourne University, which I now work for. And I didn't bother putting in for it straight away. It took a couple of weeks for everybody telling me, just do it, just do it, just do it, just do it, just do it. Eventually, I give in and I just did it. A couple of weeks later, I found out that I had successfully landed myself a full-time job at Melbourne University. Second full-time job ever, really. And a part of working at Melbourne University, we get to study a diploma of leadership and management. And I had no idea what this meant when I first started studying a diploma. Come to find out that after I finished my diploma, if I really wanted to, I could go straight to university. And this job also has, it's a 2-year program, and after 2 years are up, get to roll into a full-time job. But the hardest failures that I've had is the most recent one that I've had. I had a major injury playing football this year, and I ended up recently having surgery on my knee. It was an arthroscope, and they nearly had to give me a reconstruction because my knee was apparently the knee of an old man's, the doctor had said. And I just didn't know, he said, I've never seen a young man with a knee like yours, and I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know whether he was insulting me or congratulating me. So it has been 2.5 months, nearly 3 months since I've had surgery, and I can now finally do stuff that I was doing before I had surgery, like training or just going to the football and not having to sit in the car all day, or not needing my crutches the whole time. And this has easily been the hardest one for me, because not being able to do what you love is mind-numbingly infuriating. Just sent me batshit. I absolutely hated not being able to go to work. I couldn't go to work for about 2 weeks, and I was couch-ridden. Sorry, I couldn't sleep in my bed, because if I did and didn't have my knee elevated, I would roll either way. So I had to sleep on the couch, propped up against the couch with my leg elevated and not allowed to move for a whole week. And that I never thought it was going to end, ever. And now that it has, now that I can actually do some sort of training and go to the football and hopefully, potentially play football again, the doctors have told me again this year. But whether I can or not is not up to me. But some successes that I've had was the deadly funny thing, I think. That's probably the happiest moment that I've got recently. I had no idea what I was doing. My manager had both proposed the idea to do the first competition in Melbourne, the deadly funny Victorian heat. And she said, I want you to do it. I just kept putting it off, saying, yeah, no, I'll sign up. Just wasn't going to do it. I get a call the next day, 2 weeks after her hassling me of not signing up. She'd already signed me up. And just pretty much said, you're doing it, you have no choice. So once I had done it, I got through to the national final. And that was terrifying. I was sick nearly every day that week leading up to it, because I just had no idea what I was doing. Then I get there, and even in the back room, I couldn't sit still. I was terrified. I kept going to and from the toilet, and was absolutely crapping my pants. Get on stage and had the most fun I've ever had. Second to now, probably. No. And after I got off stage, everything was so much more relaxed. Everybody was awesome backstage, because everybody else had gone. I think it was like the second or third last, and it was awesome. To come back stage and find out that I got second. When they said my name, it didn't register. It was just like, Who's a Dion bloke? That's probably my most success at the moment. And another small success that has come from Deadly Funny is there's a football carnival we have in Echuca. Every year, it's a touch football carnival, it's Three Rivers Carnival, it's Indigenous Carnival. And they've asked me to do stand-up comedy again with three big Aboriginal comics. Kevin Kapinuri, Sean Chorbar and Andy Saunders. All three of them have performed at the Melbourne Comedy Festival for the last couple of years, and they are hilarious, and I have no idea how I'm going to go. So see about that story in a couple of months. But thank you very much. My name's Dan Williams again, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks to Dion for telling us a little bit about his story. Our next speaker is Christian Wagstaff, a creative director, producer and artist. Christian's creative career began when he was 18. He now has 30 years experience and his work has encompassed art projects, film and television, live theatre, special events, public attractions and interior design projects. Christian is co-director of CPS, Creative Production Services, with fellow creative producer and artist Keith Courtney. Christian, along with creative studio and production workshop, offer a combination of creative and design disciplines, drawing on contracts from cross-sections of theatrical and art industries to create unique ideas and creative partnerships. Christian and the CPS team provide clients with individual services and ideas and creative direction and management. He encourages the genuine exchange of artistic ideas from a team of artists, contributors, collaborators and creative partners, bringing together design, technology and craftsmanship. Christian conceives, researches ideas, manages and creates the project, so he sees everything the whole way through. Christian Wagstaff and Keith Courtney are currently touring their own House of Mirrors, which was recently installed in Roslyn Park here in Bendigo. It's also appeared at Dark Mofo in Hobart, at Brisbane's Powerhouse, Sydney Festival, Adelaide Festival, and they're just about to stage their sixth location, which is the Melbourne Festival, which will be in October this year. Christian and Keith take House of Mirrors to Auckland after that, and where they commence their international tour. So can we all welcome Christian?
They would have to program me after a comedian, wouldn't they? I'm going to have to be really fucking funny. Yes, my name's Christian Wagstaff, and I was here recently with House of Mirrors at Roslyn Park, and I had the best time. It was fantastic. This city embraced that project, so we're absolutely wrapped, and I'm really happy to come back and have a chat as well, a little bit about that experience, but sort of my journey there initially. And I'm quite introverted, which you wouldn't really know right now with a microphone in my hand, would you? But I'm a little bit introverted, and I'll probably occasionally sort of turn around and start talking to the back drape because I get quite nervous. But anyway, Mum used to say to me when I was a kid, "Jump out of your shell, Christian. Give it a go. Come on, jump out of your shell." I'd say, "Mum, I'm artistic," and she said, "No, you're autistic, darling." It's on, fantastic. Anyway, so I've got another connection to Bendigo anyway. That's my great-grandfather, Captain Percy Wagstaff. His first name was Percy, isn't that a fantastic name? So he was a captain because he fought in the First World War, and his name is actually on the monument here in Bendigo. So when we did House of Mirrors, I went and had a look and saw his name there, and I was very proud to see that he was there. And I come from a very long line of really fucking successful family. Like, they're unbelievable. I mean, you know, he was responsible for saving a lot of lives in France during the First World War, and he's a highly decorated man. So his son is Vernon Frederick Wagstaff, so that's my grandfather. And that's a photo that was taken by Dr. Julian Smith, who's a very famous Australian photographer. Beautiful photograph, and how handsome is he? Amazing, isn't it? You can see that. He actually had a broken nose, so you can't really tell that he's my relative. But anyway, that picture sits above my desk. Very daunting man. So he was an inventor. He invented lots of little trinkets and bits and bobs for the film industry and the television industry. So a lot of what happened at Channel 9 in the 1950s, he implemented a lot of the equipment for that. He ran a company called Cine Service, which used to do newsreels, and he used to make documentaries for the government. Medical documentaries, actually. That's why I was out there taking photos of that dummy with the broken leg. It was quite fascinating. So that's my grandfather. That's my dad. Isn't he fantastic? He's still alive, he's 82. That's Keith Wagstaff, and his middle name's Vernon. You know, the names kept trickling down through the family. And he's the cinematographer, another really great, highly successful man. So he's most well known for making the film The Man from Snowy River, which was a great. Well, actually, I've watched it back recently. It's not that good. It's a little bit dated. But he's a fucking legend. He was a fantastic cinematographer, and he's an extraordinary talent. I adore him, and I'm very close to him still. We talk all the time about what we do together in the creative world. He's a still photographer now. He's retired from film. Made a lot of television commercials. He made Hard Yakka, the VB ads, all those sort of fantastic old Aussie great films. Can't you tell? Look at him. He's even got a cigarette in his hand. He did Marlboro ads, actually. Just made that connection. And there's me. Can you see the lineage? That's me in Blackburn. Poor bloody fucker. Look at me. Wow. So I wanted to be a puppeteer, as you can tell. My stepfather took that photo. So that's Christian Wagstaff, that's me, and that's what came out of all those legendary, highly successful men. That's me in 1991. I used to do drag. Yeah, I look quite different now, and there's absolutely no way I could ever look like that again. And my character's name was Storm Warning. And I had a sister called Gail. I got it. Aside from that, that's my great-great-great-great-grandfather, who was Robert William Elliston. He was the son of King George IV. Yeah. Can you imagine the pressure I'm under now? But it's a little bit of a twist to the story. That's on my stepfather's side, so I'm not actual blood lineage to the throne. And there's another little twist. He was actually the illegitimate child of King George IV. It's a true story, I swear to God. I told that story in primary school, and the whole class laughed their heads off. And I went home and cried. Because it's true, it's an absolutely true story. And my mum stormed in the next day and cornered my teacher, Miss Molyneux, her name was, I'll never fucking forget it. And she got the teacher to tell the whole class that the story was true. So we fixed that, didn't we? That's a letter from the principal to my mum. I don't know if you can read that. That's at Malvern Central. I moved around a lot of schools. Dear Mrs. Hampson, she was my mother, but she remarried. Please find enclosed a copy of Christian's report written on the 1st of July 1977. 1977, not 1877. We have been in contact with Mr. Neal and told him we were forwarding the report to you. He assures us he is and will continue to investigate Christian's unhappiness. We hope that Christian's problems are soon sorted out and his happiness is restored. So life's going really well. I went to Blackburn Tech. I don't know if people know the school Blackburn Tech, clearly in Blackburn. And the Blackburn Sharpies were in that whole region. Now, I will admit I was at the tail end of that, but it was a really rough school, really tough. My brother was part of that whole crowd. It was a technical school. I don't think there's technical schools in existence anymore. There was high schools and technical schools in the 70s and early 80s. And it was really tough. It was tough for me because I was, creative, heading towards a huge drag career. But you know what? It really toughened my skin, that place, and I came out of that really in good shape, actually, because I learned lots of trades. Learned how to draw, woodwork, metalwork, automotive. Actually, no, I couldn't bear that one. But Blackburn Tech was a tough school, and it's a big part of my life. But I mean, have a look at me, really. What a pretty little boy I was. But I left that school at the end of year 10. And what happened there was I'd had enough. I did, my work experience in year 10, again, pretty tough school. Well, tough for the eastern suburbs. The western suburbs people were laughing their heads off. Pretty tough school, and people, I think you still do work experience in year 10 these days. So I did work experience. Guess where I did it? At the Victorian State Opera Theatre Company to do set design. And I met the set designer there, Kenneth Rao, who's passed away now. He was one of the greatest opera set designers in the world, and he was in Melbourne doing Don Giovanni. So I worked with him as his apprentice for 2 weeks, or whatever it was, and he was extraordinary. He was the first person to look at how I sketch things. Oh, this is his sketch, not mine, by the way. That was the only thing I could find of his work. And I was working on the sets. He was the first person to actually say, "Your work is brilliant. Don't let anyone listen. Don't listen to anybody. It's fantastic. Just keep moving forward." And but then he was quite cutting as well, because there were times that I'd be painting the set, and there was these huge wrought iron gates which were just made of timber and foam and stuff like that. And he let me spend the whole day painting them black. And then, sorry, I'm running out of breath. Then he came up to me at the end of the day and he laughed. Well, he didn't really laugh, he was too chic for that. He stood there and he just sort of smirked and he said, "Christian, you've just painted the entire back of the gate. This is theatre. No one sees the backs." So he liked to teach me some lessons. When I left Blackburn Tech, I walked out of class. I just stood up in front of my teacher and she said, "Where are you going?" I said, I'm going, I can't do it anymore. And this is the sort of the low part of the presentation. Anyway, I walked out and she said, you can't just get out of class. And I said, "Yeah, I can." And guess what I said to her? I said, "And I'll see you up in lights." Pretty fucking wanky, isn't it? So then I went home and cried, and Mum, wrapped her arms around me and said, "That's all right, we'll sort this out. Enough's enough. We'll take you somewhere else." So I went to a school called ERA, Education Reform Association, and it was in Eltham, or sort of Warrandyte area. This is a bit of an earlier shot, couldn't find a more recent shot. Well, it's closed now. Most of the schools I ever went to shut down. It says a lot, really, doesn't it? Anyway, it was in the middle of the bush, and it was absolutely chaotic, and it was full of absolute losers. It was just... Suddenly I was the top of the heap. And I went home after 2 weeks, I said, "Mum, I can't do it. I can't do this one either." And it was a government school, but you had to... Actually, it was partly funded by government, but it cost my parents quite a bit of money, and they got a little bit of it back, I think. Then I went to Ardoch High School, which was another sort of alternative school in St Kilda on Dandenong Road, and it was an absolutely beautiful school. As you can see, that's a more recent shot. They've gone back to residences now, closed. Another school that closed. I only had 200 students, we called out teachers by their first name, and this is where I think my life really turned around. I was around people that were creative, troubled, but interesting kids, teachers that really genuinely cared, and sent me in the right direction. Then I went to Paran TAFE to do dance and drama and a bit of theatre, and it was a crash course. I still don't look anything like my grandfather or my great-grandfather, do I? But it was that was an amazing school, and that we were the first through that course. It was a performing arts course, and we learned how to design sets and as I said, do a bit of dance. And it was just a crash course. I think it was a diploma. And it was a Pran TAFE, which then became Swinburne TAFE, or Swinburne University, and I think it's a polytechnic now. Where are we in the presentation? Anyway, I moved out of home at 17, not because I had any troubles with my parents, I just wanted to spread my wings, so I did that. Pran TAFE was an extraordinary time for me. And then when I graduated, I applied for jobs in television and theatre as a designer all over the country. And my first job, and Rob Gell's here today, by the way, and we've had a quick chat because he used to work at Channel 9. My first job was as a junior art director, set designer at Channel 9. Because I sent out 300 resumes or CVs, and I got 300 rejections. And then someone at Channel 10 said, there's a junior job going at Channel 9, why don't you ring them? So I rang them and I got the job straight away. Really low pay, that's why. But I took it, so I was, I think, 19. And this is the Logies set. The only picture I can find, because of course I don't have any records of it. And it's a bit of a failure, isn't it? It's really bloody ugly. That was 1989 or 1990. It looks like it's 1972. Like television, even then, was pretty bad. But what I loved about it was I just jumped in the deep end, and I was the designer at 19 of the Logies because my boss, who was the senior art director, was just a Rothman smoking alcoholic sitting at his desk. He'd been working in television since its inception, and he was just like, oh, you do a bit of this, I'd have to draw it all up and then manage all the builders. So, not a bad opportunity. That was my experience at Channel 9. Razzle dazzle, huh? Meantime, I was doing my own sort of things. I was sculpting and doing my own sort of art presentations. That was for the Melbourne Fringe Festival, and that was a poster for that. And that was also with an artist who, Cameron Robbins, who's a really serious Australian artist. He was starting out then as well. And his league is way ahead of mine creatively. It's extraordinary. But coincidentally, when we created the House of Mirrors at Mona last year for its first time, Cameron Robbins was the main artist at Mona. And we hadn't seen each other since then. So it's amazing how you reconnect with people. How am I for timing, right? Then what did I do? I left television. And then I got a job at Crown Casino as a waiter. And that's right, this is a good story. As a waiter, but it was a buffet restaurant. You don't have to really be a waiter to work in a buffet, because there's no silver service, right? So I'd the apron on, and I'd be fantastic at setting up the smorgasbord, which they were famous for. Do you remember that saying? The swagman? No. Anyway, the buffet used to do all that. I was the worst waiter in the world. I was, beside myself, couldn't really deal with it. And I ran into my English teacher from Blackburn Tech. And I said, see, I've been lied. True. Oh, that wasn't Crown. But this is a true story. By 2011, I was the creative director at Crown. So all I did for me was just work for myself, learn, listen to everybody. So I started as a waiter in a buffet at Crown in 1994. In less than 10 years, I was a creative director in marketing. Slept my way to the top. House of Mirrors. So years later, I set up my own business with my business partner, Keith Corney. And House of Mirrors is an extraordinary example in potential failure. Who'd have thought that a mirror maze could be so successful? It's just such a simple, slightly dumb idea. And Keith and I absolutely took the plunge. And we believed in it, but there was always that doubt. I'm always slightly glass half empty, he's more glass half full. Nice little balance there. And we produced that project, and it's been around 6 cities around Australia, and then we're going to tour it around the world next year. And it's not work I did for school, it's not work that I did for Crown, it's not work that I did for anyone else, it's work for us. And, you know, at 48, we finally landed on our feet. So, can't wait to take that around Europe, hopefully. Probably skip America. It's all a bit too hard, isn't it? Don't let homosexuals in. Sorry, a bit political. I love this quote, and this is... I'm finally getting to something about failure. I've just been talking about myself for 15 minutes. Have no fear of perfection, you'll never reach it. That's how I live my life. I don't think you can ever be perfect. I think failure is absolutely vital. Makes you nervous, keeps you on edge. And who'd have thought that someone like Salvador Dali would say that? To me, he's perfect. And he's the one that says something so strong as that. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you to Christian, or Storm Warning, as he was once known. Our next speaker is going to be Andrew Jones. Andrew is co-founder of G2 Innovation, an innovation training and coaching firm working with clients across the globe to embed and drive innovation and growth. G2 inspires and embeds long-lasting innovation in organisations they work with, helping them to achieve what they want to achieve. G2 are also the delivery partner for the Victorian State Government's Innovation and Training Initiative and work with a large number of multinational companies such as MYOB and Delaware North and heaps more. Originally an industrial design engineer, Andrew has spent 20 years working with companies, helping them to develop and grow through innovation. This includes Coca-Cola, Ford, Nurofen, Parker Pen, Nestle. He acknowledges that innovation is not easy. It takes time, resources and patience. It takes failure, but because without failure and without mistakes, it's impossible to know when you're on the right path. His speech today is going to be Failure, Innovation's Fuel, and he'll discuss how we can reconcile our acknowledgement that failure is important and our fear and with our fear of loss and pain and ridicule it can create. Can we all please welcome Andrew Jones?
Thank you very much. We're already having our first technical failure, so that's good, in the true spirit, so I will give it a go. My name's Andrew Jones. I basically work with organisations, companies, teams to help them innovate. And it's something, excuse me, it's something that we're asked to do more and more as the world becomes more complex and difficult. And part of it is this thing called failure. And we'll look at it. Second technical failure. Clicker's not working. Okay. Okay, so hands up then. This isn't my shopping list, this is actually an intentional slide. So, what do these three things have in common? Come on.
Fun.
Fun? Get your number up. Saturday night, yes. Actually, they're all howling fails. So the first one, double fermentation in a wine bottle. Thank goodness, Dom Perignon, thank you. Second one was a medical rehabilitation device, completely impractical. Didn't work. Try selling those to hospitals. I mean, geez, walk in, not going to be great. And the third was meant to be a blood pressure control medication with an interesting side effect. Combine all three and we have an amazing opportunity. But typically, failure doesn't always work out like that. That's great successes have come from these monumental fails. Failure is not always pleasant. And in fact, it's very often career limiting. So check your paperwork. The rest of us now are. So I'm going to call it, failure sucks. It feels terrible. And that's why we shy away from it. And it's scientifically proven to feel terrible. It releases negative endorphins. So adrenaline takes over. We then start making rash decisions. Fight or flight comes in. So taking solace and stepping back. Yes, these are all the things we have to do, but at the moment, how does it feel? It's awful. And it feels like that for months afterwards. And the reason being is we're actually genetically programmed to respond to these chemicals. We are all chemical beings, and we are addicted to winning. Scientists have proven this. So there are two chemicals that are released when we win, dopamine and testosterone, both of which, well, certainly dopamine we are extremely addicted to. You combine the two together, what it actually does is it excites the brain. It actually grows the brain. So we learn from winning. It's called the winning or the success formula. The more you win, the better you feel. The better you feel, the more you do. This is great. This is now going completely opposite to where we've gone previously. So actually we're addicted to winning, but we need to understand this. We can't change our chemical makeup. We are addicted to it. And what we've done is we've built systems and processes and organisations and teams and structures and schools designed around winning and succeeding. The Industrial Revolutions, there they are, all four of them up there. If you thought we were still in the third with robots taking our jobs, I'm sorry, that was 1969, get up to date. We're currently in the fourth Industrial Revolution of the cyber-physical, but that's not the point. The point is that humanity has built systems. When we find out what works, we do more of it. We get more efficient, we get better at it. Do more of it, do more of it, do more of it. Then we start metricizing, putting KPIs in. We start doing lean operations to do more with less. We've got to win, we've got to win. The trouble is, the speed and pace of change has now caught up and overtaken us. These big systems, these structures, these teams, these methods, the way we operate, the way we have been programmed for hundreds and thousands of years, now aren't working in the same way. The speed and pace of change is so fast. In fact, never in our human history has the speed and pace of change been so fast. And actually, I love that. A lot of people I speak to don't like change. They don't like the speed and pace of change. I love it. And with it, just to highlight it, this is how long it took technological introductions, inventions, to hit 50 million users. The grandfather at the top of the telephone, 75 years. Then we go down, 38, 13 for the television, 4 for the internet, 12 months for a blog, 3 months for the first iPhone. iPhone 6, 3 days, but anyway, that's something else. Dirty little secrets anymore? Anyone want to come out? So, Angry Birds, 35 days. We can guess what comes next. I was so looking forward to it being less. Yeah. So there we are. Pokemon Go, 19 days. This just highlights how fast things are coming. And do our systems, do our processes, do our mindsets, do our backgrounds, do our education keep up with this? Here's another way of looking at it if you want to be depressed. The speed and pace of change will never again be as slow as it is today, so come on tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after. So are we doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results? With a lot of the teams and organisations and companies that we work with, that is actually true. We might not know it, but it's actually true. This is how our system works. So we need to look at it differently. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, not the most intelligent, but the ones most responsive to change. And that change is innovation. And everyone, and every organisation, every team, every group can innovate, and you can innovate on anything. That's what's so exciting. That's what gets me out of bed every day around innovation. But how do we do it? I said at the start that failure fuels innovation. Well, let's find out. It's more than that. Failure actually is a barrier if we do not understand it and embrace it and use it properly. Typically, when we work with organisations and teams, we help develop and overcome their barriers to innovation. And typically that is they don't have an innovation strategy, they don't have an innovation process, and they certainly don't have an innovation culture. Now, that would be probably an entire day's presentation just there. So I'm going to give you a snapshot. We are going to talk about innovation superpowers. So here we go. I'm going to give you 2 today that you can take away and use. Superpower number 1 is the power of words. This is good. We can all do this. I'm assuming we can all speak. So, we're going to listen and read. The first thing to understand with the power of words is, what do we mean by innovation? Because just leaving it out there, it's that scary thing. It is a trip into the darkness. We'll come on to that. So let's anchor it down. And the 3 key words in there: the process of translating an idea into a reality that creates value. To succeed in this fast-paced world, that definition of value needs to change. Our focus needs to change. These are all successful not because they set out with the best business model, not because they got there without failures. And I could wax lyrical about all of their failings that they took to the market. They are successful because they looked at value in a different way. They looked at value for the end user. You think about all of those and then think what they do for the user. The other issue with words and not being articulated is that we typically fall in love with the solution and not the problem. And here's some wise words. Fall in love with the problem, not the solution. And you've got to understand that, and you've got to write that down, and you've got to articulate that, and you've got to be clear, because that is your springboard for innovation. So Kodak thought that their solution was the best solution. Paper, chemicals, film. We're the best in the world. We do this. We make a lot of money. We're very successful. In fact, we're the largest company in the world doing this. But what they fail to appreciate is that's not the problem. That's a solution to the problem. And solutions are disrupted. Solutions change all the time. But the problem probably stays quite static. The problem that they needed to solve was to capture, store and share memories, moments and emotions. Do you see the power of words? This now is a platform to innovate from. I've now got a bit of confidence. I'm not saying I've got to come up with a new film. I've got to find a faster way of processing film. No, that is one solution. The next one is Instagram. The next one is Facebook. The next one is, digi-sharing. The next one is Snapchat. All of these things address that problem. So we've got to understand that, and our teams have to understand that. And when we're working, we need to look beyond the solution that we're working on or trying to find and get to the problem. Otherwise, this happens. They hung on to the problem so long. They had the solution. They invented the digital camera. They invented digital picture sharing. They invented platforms for sharing images. What did they do with it? Nothing. Because they loved their solution. They said, wait, the market's not ready. Oh no, the market's ready. You're not. Because you don't like this fear of the unknown. What happens if? What happens if we destroy our own business? What happens if the market doesn't want it? So we'll sit on it. We'll wait. So, let's just pause there. We're on to the second superpower. The second superpower is the power of experimentation. And this actually is fundamentally what gives us the innovation successes. We have to be okay with failure. But there's the problem to start with. This F word that we celebrate today, actually in our teams and in our organisations, when we're cognitively working on it, we can go, yeah, I acknowledge failure. When we're actually doing it, oh no, those chemicals start releasing, and we can't fight that. However, if I use the word experimentation, okay, anyone getting any chemical release? No? It's okay, isn't it? We start going, oh, I know what experimentation is. I know what could happen. But we've got to then present it. So when we're presenting ideas or new opportunities, we've got to have data. Otherwise, it's just an idea, and ideas get shot down all the time. So therefore, we don't present ideas. We don't put forward these suggestions that maybe we should move away from paper, chemicals, and film. What? In God we trust, everyone else must bring data. How do we bring data? We experiment. So it's quite simple. Innovation is a journey of discovery into the unknown. If it was already done, it would not be a new idea that creates value. So my analogy is you're in a dark tunnel, really dark, and your torch is rubbish. So you can see about 2 meters in front of you. How do you see what's beyond 2 meters? I can now see a meter further than I could before. I know what's happened in that meter. I can see what's happening in those 2 meters. Another meter. On we go, on and on and on. So, this has been proven, right? We know this has been proven. This guy's got museums named after him. But anyway, heavier than air flying machines are impossible. Not difficult, not very challenging, not going to take a long time and a lot of money. Impossible. Lord Kelvin was the head of the Scientific Society at the time, head of the Physics Society. How did that work out for you? As I say, you've got some museums. I love these guys. Right? Now, whether you believe they were the first to fly or it was a massive conspiracy theory and it was the German who no one can remember his name, I think they're awesome, because if they did get us to fly, then great. If they didn't, then my God, they're masters at marketing. Of course they were. They ran newspapers. Not conventionally trained at all. In fact, mostly homeschooled. Had a very interesting father who was a bishop, but believed in reading. It's a good start. They read lots of books. They had a passion. Here we go. Passion starts releasing chemicals. It's a good feeling, okay, when you have a passion, when you believe in something. There was a problem. We need to fly. How do we do it? Don't know. But the thing I'm holding in my hand that they call a kite, I'm thinking that's heavier than air and it's flying. Yes, it is. How do we make a bigger kite? Let's go into our workshop. Let's make a bigger kite, make a bigger kite, make a bigger kite, make a bigger kite and strap a sandbag to it. Oh my goodness, that's working out well. Or it's a complete pile of sticks on the floor. It's okay. We haven't strapped anyone to it yet. These guys developed one of the first, if not the first. You see, the trouble with history is everyone argues about it. One of the first wind tunnels. They actually did scale testing. Why? Well, the sun goes down. It's really difficult to see your kite. Secondly, don't fly kites in thunderstorms. Someone else learned that one. By experimentation. So these guys built a wind tunnel. Then they actually asked people to submit designs to it. Then they got a lot of designs, trialled them, tested them. And then came the day when they flipped a coin and said, right, who's going up? Honestly, I'm here on the ground for you. I really wish I was in there. No. They had the confidence. They knew that first flight, 120 feet. But they knew it was going to work because they had tested it. I term it going slow to go fast. You do not build that huge, great aircraft and strap your brother to it, well, not if you want to see him again, and just launch it and hope for the best, especially when the leading minds at the time are saying heavier than air aircraft is impossible. We prove it, we find the data, we move our confidence. Google have created their own word for it, because what they found at Google is people weren't prototyping early enough, and that's the secret. You take nothing away. Wherever you thought was your starting point, start earlier. Google created this word, which is very easy to say when you're not on stage. Pre-totyping. Yep, there was only one toto. The other one comes with red slippers. So, pre-totyping. So, it's the earlier stage. Fundamentally, they have a make-it-to-break-it attitude. We're okay if this doesn't work because we get data. Do you see? It's that thing called experimentation. We're okay with experimentation. We can take big, audacious risks. We can take those steps into the unknown because we break our journey down and systematically work through it by experimentation. Prototype. Learn, refine. Prototype, learn, refine. In fact, I can put up later these slides. You've seen some of them rattle through today. I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that didn't work. I conducted 10,000 experiments. Each one gave me more data. Each one gave me more knowledge. Each one gave me more confidence to go to the next one. It's a simple process. Plan your experiment. Do it. Study. Act on it. There's the key. You can't have a pile of data and do nothing with it. You've got to act on it. Plan the next experiment. Study it. Act. Plan, do, study, act. Plan, do, study, act. And you get wonderful products like this. The 1,001 uses. Do you know why it's called WD-40? Yeah, you do. 39 didn't work, 38 didn't work, 37 didn't work, 36 didn't work. If you love your process so much, you'll put it on your product. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. There is no such thing as a failure when we use the word experimentation. We learn data. Go innovate. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Andrew. In my line of work as a political reporter, I spend a lot of time listening to politicians talk about innovation. If only they did it with such enthusiasm. Dr. Jamie Seymour will be our next speaker. He's an associate professor, or otherwise known as Jelly Dude from Nemoland. He has been researching and working with venomous and dangerous animals for over 20 years, and is interested in the question, why do animals have venom? He's based in Cairns, and he has, where there's an area of a lot of venomous animals, as we know, and he's uniquely placed to study the ecology and biology of venomous species. He also teaches all levels at James Cook University, one of the top research universities in the world. He has also been successfully involved in programs designed to decrease the venoming of humans. This means that his research has been directly responsible for changes in the present treatment protocol of Australian jellyfish stings. He established and is the director of the Tropical Australian Venom Research Institute, which is now recognised as one of the premier research groups in the world for the studies of ecology and biology of box jellyfish. Please make Dr. Jamie welcome.
Thanks for that. Thanks for the invite. So that was such a sucky introduction. Not from the person that gave it, but the way I wrote it. I should have stopped at the Jelly Dude from Nemoland. Look, thanks for the invite. This talk is going to be somewhat different from what you've heard. I think they've all been different so far. And I suspect about halfway through it, I'll break down in tears. That is not a point for someone to run onto the stage and save me. That's a point for the rest of you to stick with me. Okay? So what I want to do is take you on a journey. And most of this, or in fact all of the speakers you've had so far have come from local. Now I'm from Cairns, so I flew in and it was 28 degrees at 6 o'clock at night when I left into polar bears and penguins here. So I thought I'd better give you a bit of an idea of where I come from and what I do. So the fear of failure, and I play with venomous animals and bitey things and things of that nature. And in my line of work, when you fail, someone dies. It's as simple as that. So you try not to fail. So what do? Well, I'm a toxinologist. And what does that mean? It means I get to play with bities. I get to play with the world's most venomous fish, okay, stonefish. I get to play with the world's most venomous animal, a box jellyfish, capable of killing you on a good day in about 120, maybe 160 seconds. Nothing else kills humans quicker than that thing. So we get to play around with it. So it's great fun. Not apart from that, we get to play around with other venomous animals and do a whole heap of really cool, fast or slow motion footage. So this is some stuff I shot in the lab several years ago. This is real speed. So this is a cone snail, world's most venomous snail, feeding on a fish. And that fish is cactus. I haven't sped it up, that's normal speed. Okay, so that's pretty impressive. And we've got those through the aquarium. So if you screw around and you make a mistake, you die. Or your PhD student ends up in hospital, or the university gets really upset and all hell breaks loose. Okay, you can play with other really cool animals. This one's been slowed down, and everybody's going, oh, isn't that a really nice squid? Here's a really pretty squid. You can see it moving quite nicely. It's got a pretty eye. Whoa, hang on, what's that? The world's most venomous fish, he just snaffled it down. So we get to make documentaries for people, things of that nature. Okay, we can play around with other things. We can play around with the world's most venomous snake, or at least a snake in Australia that kills more people than anybody else. And you get to do it in slow motion and play with people's hands. And more importantly, you can watch when the thing releases, you can see the venom just coursing out of the animal. I mean, this is cool. This is great stuff. And in the grand scheme of things, when we do this sort of stuff, this is the footage and stuff we do ourselves, we become known for it as the best in the world. And this, you get to play with other little things. This is an irukandji jellyfish. It's the size of your thumbnail. It's got tentacles on it that are about 2 or 3 metres, or about a metre long, and you can't see it in the water. Now, to give you some idea, as I said, when you screw up working with these animals, bad things usually happen, okay? And in this particular case, we were mucking around with it, and God forbid, someone ends up in hospital. It just happened to be me, okay? Now I'm going to play that. This is about half an hour after I've been stung, attempting to do Zen impersonations in the ED, which is about everybody else standing around laughing, thinking it was quite funny. Here's a Zen impersonation. You know, I'm not going to die. This will be all right. God help me, the university's going to kill me. This is the 11th time. I'm going to lose my job. You'd think I'd learn after 10, but no. So there's a sort of a bit of description there. The beauty with it is this video, one of my mates who does all the videoing and things was there. And the beauty is this is the only time, I want you to listen. Hang on. There it is. Went viral. So I became known throughout the world as the guy that threw up on national television. So, as I said, the background behind these sorts of things, and they were mistakes. They weren't failures, they were mistakes. So now what I want to do is take you on a journey. Okay? Now, so it's a pretty emotional journey, certainly for me, and hopefully for the rest of you as well, because it'll stick with you. But first off, I want you to try and remember what you were doing on the 11th of September 2001. Everybody remember what they were doing then? And if you don't remember, I'll throw up two numbers, 9/11. I remember what I was doing. I was standing in the room with a good friend of mine who was American, looking at the TV going, my God, the world has changed. And I think everybody will remember that, okay? And it just, I think that signifies just how much that sort of thing resonated with us. I want to throw you another date. 4th of September 2006. 11 odd years ago. Anybody in the room remember what happened then? Anybody? Remember that? I remember it. The reason I remember it, I was on the back deck in charge of what went wrong. This is a failure, or what I thought. And as I said, you look at it, it was the day the crocodiles cried. And I want to send you on a journey here. And I want to put through what I thought I'd learned out of this whole thing. As I said, my voice will quaver, bear with me, okay? Don't anybody run out and drag me off the stage. Okay, so background, what the heck were we doing there, okay? I've told you what I do. I play with venomous animals. Supposedly one of the world's expert playing with these things, videoing and things of that nature. Steve was off making this thing called Ocean's Deadliest. He'd rung me on several occasions going, yeah, Jamie, we want to go and do this will be great, no problems, sounds great. So what were we doing there? There was Steve out front. There was Philippe Cousteau, famous Jacques Cousteau's grandson. And you can't see me because I'm just hidden around back there. Okay? But I was there. Okay? So much so, and what was I there for? To try and help Steve and give him some understanding of what was going on. So here's the stonefish that was taken out.
Leash, couldn't you? You could sort of take it down the street.
There's the one and only.
Oh, come on, you're of all people. There you go, Mr. Big.
Such a powerful toxin for such a placid fish.
World's most...
Now, there's two things to look at from that. That was the first time Steve had seen a stonefish. The first time he picked it up. Consummate expert at doing that. I look at it from another way when she's like 21. So, if we look at that, let's go a little bit further. So we're out there playing around doing this film called Ocean's Deadliest. The day in question, we were sitting out in a place called Baton Reef. Okay? Steve, if anybody had ever spent any time with Steve, was like a kid with ADHD. He had two speeds. Sound asleep or 99 miles an hour. Okay? So now imagine we've been on Croc 1 for about 2 days. He's blowing a gale. The weather sucks. You can't do anything. He's caught up in a little tiny boat. He's like a caged tiger. So about 6:30 in the morning, I'm asleep in the galley because there's nowhere else to sleep. Steve's bolted out over the top of me, out the back, grabbed his two friends, jumped in the boat and he's gone. Jesus, what the hell was that? Okay, it's just like, that little mouse, yeehaw, on the leap, he's gone. And I remember talking to Johnny State and going, well, what's he doing? He's going out to film stingrays. Oh, okay, that's cool. I talked to Steve a couple of days beforehand going, well, if you're working with stingrays, this is what you need to be aware of. In fact, he was going to wear one of these chain mesh suits that you can wear. And I went, no, you don't want to wear one of those because if all shit goes wrong, I can't get you off the bottom because you're negatively buoyant. Don't, it's bad. Talk to him about what you should and shouldn't do with stingrays and away you went. So I thought I'd done the job. Okay? What happened to that day was a couple of things I want to get across to start with. All the world's experts that stood there and said he should have done this or should have done something else, they weren't there. They don't know what the hell happened. They haven't seen the film, so they had no idea. So they all shut up, okay? Here's the real story, all right? So Steve's out there filming with this animal, okay? Wasn't upsetting it, and it's a big animal. It's 2.5 metres from wingtip to wingtip, okay? That's taller than me. Steve's in the back end of the thing. He's been filming, coming over the back end, and stingrays out there are eaten by tiger sharks. It's one of the things we're out there to try and film. Steve's shadow has gone over the stingray. The stingray's done exactly what you would expect it to do and reacted, thinking, my God, that's a big tiger shark. Tail's come up and ended up with the spike in the tail of this has actually embedded itself into Steve's chest. Let's have a look at what that spine's like. This is not the spine in question, but this is the spine out of another one. So this is the spine out of the back end. If I zoom in a little closer, you can start to see that it's like a stiletto knife. It's got recurved spines on it, and it's about that long. Okay, if you come in and look at it a little closer, okay, it is a formidable weapon. Okay, now this has come up, it's come up through Steve's chest between two ribs and pierced his left ventricle. Any other place he had been hit in his body, he would have survived. So a series of seriously bad accidents turn up, bang, and we now have Steve Irwin in all sorts of problems. About 2.5, 3 minutes after that, I see Steve on the back deck of Croc 1, and for the next 2.5 hours, we attempt to save this man's life. Okay? So that's the setting behind the back end of that. You can imagine then, when we find out that we've lost Steve, that, let's be honest, my life went to hell in a handbasket. And a variety of things happened. But I want to wind forward about 2 weeks' time. Now, this is down in the Crocosseum, when we had a farewell to Steve. Now, there's nothing solidifies more in your mind that you've actually lost something really spectacular to the world when you sit in a Crocosseum with around about 3,000 to 5,000 people. You can't see me, but I'm sitting down in here next to Terry, Robert, and Bindi, and what seems like the rest of the world is there watching. Okay, and we're saying goodbye to an amazing person. So I get emotional. Bear with me here. What solidifies in your brain, though, that for the want of a better word, you have failed, is when all 5,000 people leave that stadium and you're left alone, sitting there in tears, going, I didn't save him, I failed. That's a failure. Or so I thought. And as you can imagine, my life went pretty south on that. A variety of things happened. So if you look at it, obviously I continued on. So something must have changed. What changed? And I tell you, I was sitting there in tears with my daughter beside me, just going, I failed, I couldn't save him, what have I done? I've screwed up. Okay? I'm responsible for the person that's left there. And what changed? Well, these two people changed. My son and my daughter. So if you think over a period of about 6 months after that, it went from days of me sitting there in tears, going, I've screwed up, to days of me going, but this is what I do for a living. Days to me going, I really enjoy this, back to, I've screwed up, and in tears again. And they both said one day, but Dad, if you don't do it, who will? And I thought, that's interesting. Here I was, mucking around, letting my ego get the better of me, going, what did you do? What did you do wrong? You should have fixed this, you should have fixed that. Rather than looking for the things internally of that. But about that time, Steve's dad came out and said something. And this really resonated with me. He said, when the world lost Steve, the animals lost the best friend they ever had. And I didn't hear that. Not for the first 6 months. And then I did. And there was a variety of things that went on. And one of the things I remember when I first met Steve many, many years ago, and he said, do you ever watch, he met him and I went, Steve, you're a dead set moron. And he went, really? I said, you realise there's a drinking game that follows your show, and every time you screw up or do something stupid, you've got to scull a beer. You cannot get through a 50-minute show without being smashed at the back end of it. And he went, that's cool. Oh, yeah, typical Steve. And he said, do you watch my shows? And I went, nah, I can't, you're an idiot. He said, do you watch any of them? I said, yeah, a couple of times. He said, well, why do you watch it? And I went, So I can see you screw up. He said, gotcha. What? This guy is a dead set moron. He said, what do you remember out of everything you've seen? I think we all remember the catchphrase, Croc's rule, save the crocodiles. That's what I remembered. And he said, that's where I've got you. You're watching me do something stupid. I can sell anything I want to you now. I can sell you a second-hand car, you'll go buy it. What does he sell? Croc's rule, save the animals. He was prepared to make himself out there as a complete idiot, which he wasn't, to save the animals. So all of this is resonating in my brain, and I'm thinking I've failed, I've screwed up, and I started to think about that. It's a variety of things. The first one that dumped in on me, and regardless of what you think of skyhooks, occasionally ego itself is a really dirty word. Okay, and what do I mean by that? When this all happened and I'm sitting at home trying to work out what was going on, my ego fueled and coloured everything that I did. All I wanted to think about is, what did I do wrong? It was all about me. What did I do wrong? Why was I thinking that way? My ego just took over. And it wasn't until my son and my daughter said, but Dad, you enjoy doing this, go and do it. And you heard those words from Bob as to what was going on. What I should have thought about is, they said, I was thinking about what the hell I was doing wrong. What I should have been thinking about is, what did I learn? That's when Steve's words came back. Save the Crocs. Crocs rule. Go out there. Have fun. The other thing that rang in my mind, we were filming on the back of Croc one day, and we'd been there for 4.5, 5 hours in the sun. I was beat. I had enough. I just wanted to go home. 2 little kids broke on the set. Came in going, oh, Steve, can we have your autograph? I was all set to get up, smash the living Jesus out of it. Going, oh, for Christ, they've got to do his whole take all over again. Steve goes, that's all right, Jamie. All right. Sits them down. I'm going, oh, Christ's sake, Steve, kill them, will you? We did the takes, finished. About half an hour later, he comes over to the kids and he sits down. He sits down with them. Man, he talks to them 5, 10 minutes, signs an autograph, sends them off. I'm going, I hope you told them never to come back again. He went, no. I said, why? He said, those 2 kids, Jamie, will go out and talk to 10 others. Those 10 will talk to 100. Those 100 will talk to 1,000. And we'll save the world. We'll save animals. And they are the sorts of things that stuck with me over that whole time. So let's move that a little bit further. I'm not saying ego should be put aside and forgotten about. Ego is incredibly useful when all hell breaks loose. Let me tell you, when we had Steve on the back deck of the boat, okay, and I've seen the footage of me because it was all filmed, you saw me like a robot. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. This is what is going to happen. Ego allows you to do that. I physically thought I could save that thing. Okay? So it's good in some situations. But when you fail, and you know you have, ego's a bad thing. Because you will not see the benefits in what's gone wrong. And as I say to my students now, my PhDs, take your ego, put it in cotton wool, put it up on the top shelf and leave it there. So it can't get hurt. So if you don't hurt your ego, you're fine. Then look for what's hidden, what the ego stands in front of. Start to look at what's going on. Your ego itself will hide those important messages. Okay? You've got to get rid of it. Having said that, once you've worked out what the important bits were in there and what you've learnt from that failure, bring it out again and let it loose. Because that's what lets you stand on the stage here, like now, talking to you about the biggest failure in my life. Okay? Did it have an effect? Have I put that ego aside and yeah, I think I have. The sorts of things we need now is we work with drugs or look for drugs from venoms from the world's most venomous animals. I still play with them on a daily basis. Okay, if you look at it, we've got a drug that looks like it's going to save people from arthritis from the box jellyfish. Okay, we've got cancer-killing drugs, again, from the box jellyfish. This thing can kill you in 2 or 3 minutes. We may be able to save people like that. Through to drug delivery compounds. Out of that stonefish I was showing you, you can take the venom from that guy, remove the toxic component, link a drug to it, and take it directly to a specific cell from venomous animals. Okay, I can go on. Chlamydia. Everybody knows about chlamydia. Really tough disease to kill. It's immune to everything on the planet. Again, box jellyfish have a component that kills chlamydia. We keep going. Heart transplants, we can use it for that. Through to diet pills. There is a component out of box jellyfish that you can take